Wrestling as a genre is known for being a bit unrealistic. Subscribing to sports entertainment as opposed to actual sports, there are times that the wrestling promotions use their creative license to do what they need to achieve their aims. Nowhere is this more prominent than in WWE. This is a company which has often stretched the boundaries of believability to a maximum. In no other job do retired pros make a return to their old job so frequently, and that's for good reason. In the case of some of these individuals, it would have been best for them, their legacy, and their fans to just stay retired. It would have allowed the fans to hold on to the memory of the careers of their favorite wrestlers and to enjoy it for what it was, a one-time spectacle that should have been ended. However, these returns from retirement happened and fans were unable to hold on to the memories of their favorite stars in their prime, left instead with the image of them floundering in the ring at an advanced age. In this video, we will talk about 10 wrestlers that never should have come out of retirement. We open the list with a wrestler who might be considered one of the greatest of all time. Known for his willingness and ability to take extreme bumps, Mick Foley has earned the moniker of being a hardcore legend. Throughout his tenure, Foley had matches which could have seen the end of the career of many other stars, but Foley was never just any other wrestler. For all it was worth, Mick Foley should have retired after his match against Edge, where he was put through a table that was on fire, or his hardcore match with Randy Orton, which saw Orton gain another tier in the wrestling world for the quality of match that the two put on. However, Foley wasn't done, and he went on to wrestle in Impact, then known as TNA, until 2010. He later took a personality role as a GM in WWE in 2016, a role he should have taken long back. His return from retirement to wrestle in TNA spoiled a part of his legacy, and that was a run that the wrestling world could have done without. Mae Young was also one of the best wrestlers during her prime. However, she was also a wrestler who simply refused to retire. She was one of those wrestlers who were well past it each time they made the return, but she would not quit and just kept on coming. While her non-wrestling roles as a personality are memorable, her matches during the Attitude Era, the Ruthless Aggression Era, and the PG Era were matches that the universe could have easily done without. They forever marred her legacy, and she is known more as a joke than the glorious career that she held previously. As a result, she makes it onto this list as well. And her last match in 2010 will always live in notoriety when she had to be supported to the ring as she was so frail. At 86 years old, she had no business being anywhere near a wrestling ring. Not many fans of the current gen know Bob Backlund for the legend that he was in the wrestling world during his prime. He is definitely a wrestler who returned far too many times. During his original run in WWE, he fought against the likes of Billy Graham, Nick Bockwinkel, and Ivan Koloff, among others. He was the second longest holder of the WWE title during his 5-year run. However, he would return and gain and lose the WWE title within a span of 3 days. It was a forgettable run, and his legacy was further tarnished by his return as a manager for Darren Young, where his role was largely forgettable. He should definitely have stayed retired so the fans could hold on to his glorious legacy of the past. Terry Funk is the definition of a wrestler who has no idea what is good for him. Known for being a hardcore legend, his legacy lies right alongside that of Mick Foley for pulling off the craziest stunts and taking the most unforgivable blows to his body. Funk retired in 1999, 2006, 2011, and again in 2013. He then wrestled in Japan again in 2014 at the age of 70. Due to the sort of bumps he had taken over the years, it does not take a genius to realize that Funk's body was way past it even during the Attitude Era. His return saw him take even crazier and more unnecessary bumps that the whole universe and the wrestling world could have done without. The most iconic name of WCW was definitely Sting. When WCW went under and WWE bought them out, with WCW legends arriving in WWE almost each year, the universe felt it was only a matter of time before Sting showed up. However, he remained the only big WCW wrestler that the WWE was never able to hire. Since 2001, many years passed, and WWE fans made peace with that fact. However, when Sting finally did arrive, it was in 2015, and when he was way past his prime. By that time, Sting had no business entering a ring. Having left other promotions earlier, it was a return that was expected, especially since he has signed on for a WWE game. But his return was one that the universe and possibly Sting himself would like to forget. Not only does he no longer have the edge that he once had, he was one of those wrestlers who had nothing left to give. Instead of putting him in a match against The Undertaker in the dream match that every fan had ever wanted, he was instead put against Triple H in an underwhelming one. As if that was not enough, he was then injured by Rollins, ending the chance of a Sting vs Undertaker match forever. There wasn't a wrestling fan in the whole world who didn't know of the Ultimate Warrior. Heralded as the possible successor to Hulk Hogan, when the Ultimate Warrior had his run in WWE, it was one of the greatest of all time. During this time, he also pinned Hulk Hogan clean, a feat that not many other wrestlers can boast of. But when he finally retired post his second WWE run, it was expected that he would stay retired. Like many others on this list, he didn't, and instead signed with WCW, had 3 matches, all of which were forgettable, before retiring. The best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be. At a time, Bret Hart's motto held true. There was no wrestler in the world who had the same technical and physical prowess which Bret boasted of. He could do anything and everything in the ring. Even when he came to WCW after the Montreal Screwjob, it looked like he could forge a new career. It was not to be. A stiff kick from Goldberg saw Hart suffer concussion, one that he would never recover from. He had to retire as his condition was severe. However, when he finally returned to WWE to make amends many years later, in a moment that should have been joyful and legendary, he entered the ring, spoiling it altogether. Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart made amends, but when it came to Hart and Mr. McMahon, WWE wanted a feud. The two old performers entered the ring in a forgettable match which should have never happened. They could have picked representatives from the newer wrestlers, with Hart having a single spot with McMahon. Instead, they had a match which would spoil the legacy that Bret Hart had so carefully built. One could say that at the end of the day, Mr. McMahon really did screw Bret Hart. Again. There always seems to be a question when it comes to the career of The Undertaker. Will the dead man retire this year, or will he not? At one point, it really appeared that the dead man had really retired. At WrestleMania 33, he faced Roman Reigns in the ring. While clearly the favorite, the dead man lost and put over the big dog of WWE once again. The match was not bad and actually a good way to go out. That seemed to be exactly what The Undertaker had in mind during the match. After the match was over, he put his hat and coat in the middle of the ring with his wrestling gear and left, as symbolic a gesture as any that he finally had called it quits inside the ring. Despite all of that, he went on to return to the ring yet again, a return that should have never taken place at all, as The Undertaker was way past it at this point. If there was a wrestler who went out with an exceptional match, and possibly the only one on this list to retire too early, it's the Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels. For the second time in his career, Michaels retired after a match at WrestleMania in a rematch for the ages. Michaels put his career on the line against The Undertaker's streak, and he lost. It was one of the best matches of all time. Michaels would apparently never return to the ring again. His career was done for, according to his own words, but he did. At Crown Jewel, he returned to the ring and had a tag team match with Triple H at his side against the Brothers of Destruction. They defeated the team, and Michaels had a victory, but minus his hair, and although his performance was good, the match had been an unnecessary one, and one that the fans could have done without. Ric Flair might just be known as the best wrestler of all time. By the time the PG era came about in WWE, he was long past it. At WrestleMania 24, he faced Shawn Michaels in what is considered to be by many the best retirement match of all time. There, Michaels defeated Flair with an emotional super kick after telling him that he was sorry. It was a heartwarming moment, and one that should have remained the final moment of Ric Flair's career. However, instead he returned to the ring in TNA and had several ridiculous matches which were not needed. He should have never returned to the ring. And these were 10 wrestlers that should have never come out of retirement. I hope you're all having an amazing day. Thank you so much for watching Wrestling Hub, and I will see you later in the next video.